What it do, cuckolds? It's your boy the Hater up in this piece, and it's been a minute since we've done one of these. That's right, Hater on the road, cuckolds, Hater on the road. For some reason, I've stopped doing some Hater on the roads, but we're back to that again, you know what I mean? The Hater gives it to you straight. The Hater walks it, and the Hater talks it, cuckolds. Today's video is about how AEW is essentially a graveyard where dreams go to die. Let's be honest, AEW has been in business approximately 5 years. You understand what I'm saying? A little bit longer, I think. Now, with all that being said, cuckolds, how many stars has AEW made during this entire 5-year period? The answer to the question is 0.5. You could argue that they took Jade Cargill and they made her into a half a star, and WWE has ruined that by turning her into a meaningless jobber. But beyond her, nobody else has benefited from AEW, right? Everyone that's gone through AEW is worse off than they were before they went to AEW. Literally everyone. You can make perhaps an argument that the likes of someone like Sammy Guevara or Kip Sabian are exceptions to this rule, because before AEW, they were literally nobodies. But I would counter that with the assertion that they are still nobodies, motherfucks. They are still nobodies. Now, AEW is not like other wrestling promotions, meaning that thus far, nobody has gone there to catapult themselves into a better position afterwards. In fact, the opposite is true. AEW somehow has been able to attract a lot of quote-unquote prospective stars, right? Starting with the Young Cucks, starting with Kuki Omega, and starting with Kazuchika Okada. There has to be a cuck pun in there. Kazuchika Okada, there you go. That's simple as that. These guys have all pretty much lost all their veneer, all their aura, as the children might say, during this time, right? There was a point, and this happens all the time. You hear this all the time, right? Adam Page is another one. You hear this all the time. The internet wrestling fan base, right, prompted by Dave Meltzer, will latch on to one or more, usually one, sometimes two, wrestlers that they pretend are better than they really are. And people say, I'd love to see this guy, or sometimes very rarely, this girl in WWE, but Vince McMahon won't know how to use them. Well, here's the truth. It looks like Tony Khan also doesn't know how to use them, right? Because look at Kazuchika Okada. I can't believe it took me so long to come up with Kazuchika. Come on, that doesn't itself. But anyways, look at him, right? There was a point where people were saying this guy is the future of wrestling. Now, he's the future of the undercard at every AEW event. Nobody gives a rat's ass about Kazuchika Okada in any capacity. The fact of the matter is that not one person at this juncture thinks that this guy is anything special. And that goes to show you what the problem is with AEW, right? It just ruins careers. Think about it. This guy could have had that allure that, oh, once this guy gets to WWE, he's going to be a big deal. I will use a very recent example to illustrate what I mean. So, before Kairi Sane was a complete nobody jobber, right? She was the next big thing, Kairi Sane, right? People were pretending that Kairi Sane was something special. You'd hear dumbass people say things like, oh, Kairi Sane has the best elbow drop in the business, right? Well, lo and behold, nobody talks about that anymore. Now, I know what some of you are thinking. Hater, Kairi Sane is not an AEW. I understand. I'm just using this as an example, right? Now we've got Julia. And we heard the same thing about Julia. Julia is the next big thing in women's wrestling. Well, wait a second. What happened to Kairi Sane? I thought she was the next big thing. Are we to believe that now that we see her, everyone has agreed simultaneously that she's no longer the next big thing and that Julia is? Well, here's the problem with that. Julia and Kairi Sane are completely interchangeable. Nobody knows and nobody cares about any differences between the two, if any differences exist. Let's be real. I saw Julia come out with Stephanie Vaquer, who had like goat horns for some ram horns for some reason. Only guys should have ram horns. Rams are males. It's really weird. But anyways, I saw Julia coming out, and she did like Kairi Sane mannerisms. She dresses like Kairi Sane, and she looks a little bit like Kairi Sane. She does nothing special like Kairi Sane. So it's like, what am I watching here, right? And it's the same thing with the males. You know, for a long time, that dude was Nakamura, right? He came, and all of a sudden, people don't care about him anymore, right? It's not like Nakamura got worse. Oh, they don't let him do the moves. Yes, they do. I've seen the New Japan matches. He did the same exact moves, right? Why is it that the only people who are not allowed to do their old moves are people that suck ass, right? Why is it that, for example, Cesaro, who still sucks, but he was able to do all the moves he did, right? AJ Styles does every move he did in TNA. He has done all those moves in WWE except for the spiral tap, but that's because, like, you know, that doesn't really fit him anymore because now he's not like a cruiserweight. But you understand what I'm getting at, right? A lot of times the people that don't do the moves anymore are colossal jobbers. And this needs to be acknowledged. The fact is this, that the allure that comes from the independents needs to go away. You know, if you look at Kazuchika Okada, as we now say on this channel, right? And you compare him, let's say, to Adam Page, right? You're like, okay, which one's better? Well, you don't know, right? You don't know who would have a better NXT, like, debut. Remember when, what was his name? Kushida was supposed to be the next big thing, and everyone pretended to be surprised that he was a jobber in NXT? And I'm like, why did you think this guy was going to be a star? He has 0 star qualities, so of course his career is going to go the way it did, right? And quite frankly, the same thing would have happened to Kenny Omega and the Young Bucks. There's no reason to think that the Young Bucks would have had this, like, great WWE tag team run, right? Why are they better than Pretty Deadly? They're not. They would have the same kind of career as Pretty Deadly, which goes to show that people like the Young Bucks are intelligent enough to not go to WWE and try to play off this allure. But now the problem is AEW has filled the WWE role of taking away the allure, right? When Kevin Owens was Kevin Steen in ROH, people were pretending that this guy was the next big thing. When he came to be Kevin Owens, now everyone accepts him as a nobody, right? People can still like him, but nobody says anymore Kevin Owens should go beat Brock Lesnar in the main event, right? You would hear shit like that. You would hear Sami Zayn should beat John Cena clean. You don't hear things like that anymore. Nobody cares anymore, right? And this should be a warning sign to every wrestler that has some capacity. Like, for example, MJF, right? For a while, I feel like they've already moved on from him. But for a while, he was like the golden boy of the indies, right? He went to AEW, nobody cares anymore. Now he's not even in the main event. Now at like Full Gear, which is like their WrestleMania, MJF is going to be wrestling Adam Cole or Roderick Strong in like a mid-card match. Nobody cares at all anymore. He has been lapped by other people who will be lapped by other people. No stars have been made in the independents ever, right? The only exceptions are maybe AJ Styles because he was an independent star and he felt like a big deal. He just felt like a big deal. All the other ones do not feel like big deals. Now, the next golden boy is Will Ospreay. Now, Will Ospreay thinks that he's going to go to WWE and become a big deal. He actually has the highest ceiling because he's English, at least, right? So he can speak English and he can cut a relatively decent promo. But there's no reason to think that Will Ospreay is going to have a better career than Ricochet, right? You see how the allure just goes away when you get signed by WWE? It never pans out for anybody. And then the story, the lore becomes, wow, WWE really dropped the ball with insert name here. But it never is AEW dropped the ball with insert name here. And more importantly, for some reason, it never is, wow, we were all colossally wrong about this person, and this person sucked all along, and people like the hater knew it all along, right? Like Karrion Kross. Remember when everyone thought he was going to be a massive star, and I said everyone's delusional? Everyone's suffering from, like, delusions of grandeur with respect to Karrion Kross, right? Well, I'm saying the same thing about the Obafemis of the world, about the Axioms of the world, about the Trick Williamses of the world, about the Nathan Frazier's of the world. People thought that Roderick Strong and fucking Kyle O'Reilly were gonna, like, be the main eventers in WWE. These are people that have never watched wrestling in their lives, I don't think, right? There's very few people that have that capacity, and these people are just not cut out for it. It's as simple as that. Now, at the very least, if you're gonna go and fail, you can go to WWE and you can have a Sami Zayn-esque career versus going to AEW and having a Swerve Strickland-esque career. You see what I'm getting at here? At the very end of the day, right? There's people out there that are going to be overhyped by the internet wrestling community. The internet wrestling community sees one good match and they just assume that this guy is one of the best wrestlers in the world. Do you remember, motherfucks, when people would unironically say that Switchblade Jay White, whose nickname is Switchblade, Jay White, who is one of the most vanilla jobbers of all time, people were talking like this guy was the next Hulk Hogan. And I'm like, have you people lost your mind? This guy sucks ass. He's basically another Adam Page, which is the same thing as Adam Cole. It's a bunch of long-haired guys with zero charisma. You know, we need to have some stability in wrestling. And the fact of the matter is that nobody can provide the stability anymore because nobody is good enough anymore, right? These are just the hard facts. The hater needs to tell it to all of y'all because nobody wants to see it like it is, right? In my previous video, there's a cop, hater on the road, but it's not me, cuckolds. In my previous video, I used the thumbnail of Ludwig Kaiser just as an example of mediocrity that is presented as greatness, right? I have nothing against Ludwig Kaiser. I even like the kid a little bit, just like I kind of like Obafemi. But let's not elevate these guys into something more than they are. There is nothing that Obafemi has that Miro didn't have, right? And we saw how Miro turned out. The only difference is that Miro is like bigger and stronger than him and has like a better look because he's just more like sturdy. He's more robust. You know what I'm saying? Like, same thing with Trick Williams. Like, are we to believe now that Trick Williams is more over than Cesaro was during the Cesaro section? And that didn't pan out. So why would it pan out for Trick Williams? The problem is, well, there is a small chance because the standards have fallen so low. Like, maybe if Cesaro debuted today, he'd have like a more of a mid-card run instead of an undercard run, because that's what he was the whole time, an undercard wrestler that people pretended should be a main eventer. But you understand what I'm getting at here, right? Like, some people are going to benefit because the numbers games dictate it, right? You have Gunther, the best example. Literally everyone I just mentioned. Trick Williams, Axiom, fucking Obafemi, Ludwig Kaiser. All these guys are much better than Gunther. But Gunther's going to get the rub because that's how the cookie crumbles, I suppose. But it doesn't change the facts. And the facts are that all these people are jobbers, that AEW is a graveyard where wrestlers go to die, right? Nobody has benefited from being in AEW. Look at all the people that were there episode 1, like Sammy Guevara. It's been 5 years of a career. This guy has achieved fucking nothing. He's achieved fucking nothing. If Sammy Guevara debuted tomorrow, he would have achieved the same thing as he has in the last 5 years. Nothing. Fuck all, right? It's just throwing away 5 years of your life. Maybe he's getting paid a lot of money. Hopefully he is, because it's got to be worth something in the end. But let's be real. Like Sammy Guevara, if he goes to WWE, yeah, he'll get a push. He'll win a few matches. But let's be real. Sammy Guevara is going to have a Grayson Waller type career. Sammy Guevara is not going to be like the next Eddie Guerrero. Remember that shit, motherfucks? When they told us Sammy Guevara reminds you of Eddie Guerrero? They would just say it. They're like, oh, doesn't Sammy Guevara remind you of Eddie Guerrero? No, he doesn't at all remind me of Eddie Guerrero. At all. He's like lesser in every way than Eddie Guerrero. And more importantly, the charisma. But even in his physique and his wrestling skills, he's way worse. So that's what I'm getting at, Cugs. AEW is a place where you see jobbers, and they tell you these jobbers are underrated, right? They'll push to you like fucking Aleister Black. This guy's like it's a chubby guy with like, who hasn't hit the gym in years, with like demon tattoos all over his body. And I'm supposed to believe that this guy can beat Velveteen Dream? I'm supposed to believe that this guy has a chance against like EC3, who would butcher him in seconds? You know what I mean? That's the problem, right? We need less jobber-esque people, and we need more stars. But AEW ain't going to be the place to find them. Any person that has any capacity to be a star is going to get squashed real quick there, cuckwads. Take care of yourselves and each other up in this mug.